As the protests grow in Ireland today against the commercialising of water in this country, there are new considerations to be aware of in this whole dispute. Thanks to the actions of Enda Kenny's government, Ireland is now a target for major corporations because of water. Fresh water around the world today is in short supply. Short supply means profits to be made. Water is now big business.
Water is the next big issue, and I think that it creates great investment opportunities on the infrastructure side and the supply chain that supports that infrastructure.
But the water crisis is not new. The international banks have known about it and been planning for it for 30 years. They read all the predictions that were being made about pollution and weather change, and they began to get ready. As long ago as 2008, the New York Times mentioned that Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Credit Suisse, Kohlberg Kravis Roberts and the Carlyle Group had already amassed an estimated $250 billion war chest to finance a tidal wave of infrastructure products in the US and overseas. The water business is growing in a number of ways. First, it's in giving money to governments to service debt to improve services. Second is buying out water utilities completely, which allows for ongoing revenue as everyone needs water, whoever they are. And finally, for the bottling and selling of that water overseas, where people have polluted their water so badly they cannot drink it, or they have no access to that water. Today, the world spends over $100 billion on bottled water every year, with profits of around $87 billion. In Alaska, Canada, Africa, India, and yes, in Ireland and the UK, actually all over the water-rich parts of the world, there are companies who are hoovering up the local water and transporting it elsewhere. Californians, in the middle of the worst drought in recorded time, the water underneath them is being filtered and bottled.
We are pumping the water up from the ground. In this country, it's 1/2 of the daily water use comes out of the ground, and then we take a good part of that water and we ship it not only out of watersheds, but right out of the country itself in the form of virtual water trays.
Tests have shown that the quality of tap water is often just as good or even better than that of bottled water. And tap water is a lot cheaper. Yet the bottled water business is booming. Nestlé is the market leader.
They're after profit. They're predators, water hunters looking for the last pure water in the world.
For one tanker load, Nestlé pays $10. Once bottled, the same water costs $50,000.
It's not a pretty picture, and it definitely makes you think, well, how can you allow a private company to have 65 million gallons of water when this can happen?
Even the Great Lakes, home of 20% of the world's fresh water, are now showing effects. Lake Superior is down at last count about 2.5 feet.
In Ireland today, we are lucky to still have fairly regular rain, and that means we have fresh water. And we still have, so far, more than we need, and that makes us a target for any money-hungering water corporation. Even though the Irish government has insisted it will not privatise the water infrastructure, it has strangely done its level best to make the water sector attractive to buy by gathering all the water entities into one company and then giving it a revenue stream by metering and water charging. They have done such a good job that even PricewaterhouseCoopers has suggested they might want to look at a possibility of selling a stake in Irish Water if they need the money.
If it is commercially owned by large corporations, they are going to sell that water to the places and people and industries that can afford it, not to El Alto Bolivia, not to the places that need it.
Precious water cannot be treated as a commodity because that already means that those who cannot reach the marketplace, those who don't have the purchasing power, those who are on the margins, and the rest of life, the plants, the trees, the microbes will have no right to water, and I do not think it is given to any organization on this planet to basically rewrite the laws of life.
Ireland could very quickly become water poor if we sell off our national treasure. We now have finally a resource that, if well managed, could bring big profits to the country and the residents that live here. But instead, we're allowing anyone in a government to sell our water to the latest bidder. That is why the protests are important. Not for today, not for today's bills, but for the generations to come. We need to join together and solve our problems ourselves with some creative thinking. And then we will have something to trade with in the future, when we will be energy poor, but water rich.